So you're eager to enter the Gallowdark, but you've got an ungodly amount of terrain to assemble first. So I've heard that there's the odd issue, perhaps, in the assembly of this terrain. So I am recording my progress and clarifying a few things that I come across, assuming I don't mess anything up as well. So this isn't a full assembly guide. I'm not going to teach anyone how to assemble the full terrain sets because I'm assuming it's going to be very straightforward. But if there's anything that comes up which I think requires a little bit of clarification, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'll be doing. So let's get cracking. Okay, so the first piece that we assembled, it is worth dry fitting the doors and the hinges before you do them, for the simple fact that you don't want to put the door on the wrong way because then it won't fit into the terrain properly. It should fit somewhat flush like that with a closed door. And you don't want to, accidentally attach a hinge upside down or anything like that. So yeah, first things first, dry fit this stuff first, just so you know you're gluing everything correctly before it's too late. The other thing is, and it's just a personal thing for me, on the actual doors themselves, you get a choice, A8 or A5. I'm choosing to do one of each, just so as that, as much as possible, I don't have two pieces of terrain the same. Also, when gluing, don't glue into these little parts here, regardless of how much they might look like they might, benefit from a bit of glue. And make sure you're only gluing into these little nodules here. Gluing here will stop your doors from opening and shutting. And remember, sometimes when gluing, less is more when it comes to the amount of glue you're actually using. And that will definitely be the case in this situation, because over gluing will just clog up your doorway. Okay, so moving on to the next part, that's part 27 in the book. The same rules apply for orientation of the hinges and the doors, so make sure you get those right. The only other thing to remember is that not all of the hinges are made identically. Some of them are slightly different with different gluing lineup, and perhaps we might find out later on that some of them might be oriented differently. So just make sure you're always using the correct hinges. Okay, so I'm on to the third set now, and I've just realised or worked out that the easiest way to get this right is apply your glue, rest the doors in, and then attach your hinges. You'll make sure that you get everything in the correct place, at the correct time, in the correct order. One thing interesting to note really is that I'm finding this terrain highly irritating. So if you've got this wall section B1, why not have the door and the hinge on the same sprue rather than having to chase 3 different sprues for all the same things? Anyway, whinge over, let's carry on. Okay, so the next section we've got where there's a little bit of ambiguity is section 34, where we have to cut out all of these corner sections. Now, there's nothing telling you that you shouldn't glue it, so it is a bit ambiguous. Don't glue it, because these are the kind of wall sections that are going to connect together so as we can assemble all of our different things. Okay, now you need to make sure that you don't glue them so as they can be used for different purposes. There are other sections that will come up later which are for these kind of corner stops. Basically with these sections, they fit together at the bottom and then these go on top. That will keep it very secure. There is no need for glue whatsoever, and it will always allow for separation. However, I am a little bit worried, it must be said, about how we're going to get this stuff off. That came off quite easily, but yeah, when all the stuff's nicely painted, we might find that we are damaging that paintwork. So certainly if you're a painter, you've got to get this stuff painted up make sure you use decent varnish or a decent coat of varnish on it. It's going to protect it from doing that. Now, I will say something else before I go further. I wish I'd known at the start. There is a great call here to be painting this stuff on the sprue. For the simple fact that once it's all assembled, there's going to be all these little pieces that are going to need to be primed and painted individually. I think it would be a great shout, and I've never painted on anything on the sprue before, but I think that this terrain set would be very, very good for painting on the sprue. What I would be careful of if I'm painting on the sprue is I would tape off anything which is going to be pushed together. So things like all of these edges here, if I'm going to paint the sprue, I would tape those off to, I don't want any paint on those at all. I want all that completely clear going forward. Okay, right, let's carry on. Right, when you've got a section like this, you'll see that the top caps, of which we get loads of them, you'll see that those top caps will fit on there. Now, obviously where we have the different angles and that kind of thing, we know we don't glue them. Don't be tempted to glue that, because the walkways will also come out of the sides of every part, and then the cap goes on top to keep everything solid and together. So don't be tempted to glue any of these whatsoever, because it is the wrong thing to do. Okay, so that is the end of the assembly. I have to say that the terrain itself is absolutely wonderful. Really, really very cool stuff. Make sure when you're done you test all your doors and that sort of thing while your glue might be relatively kind of tacky, just in case there's any mobility issues there. I haven't actually glued on all of these yet. They can go on these pillars wherever, top, bottom. It won't matter as long as you're not covering up any of these parts here. So it won't matter to the construction of your kill zones or anything like that. That will keep everything nicely. So when you're gluing all of these parts onto the pillars, don't feel like they all have to go dead center or anything like that. You know, these small pieces, you know, are various things. You've got some keypads there that probably shouldn't go near the ground, but then you've got various ones. Don't feel you have to put them dead center, because these corner pieces, wherever they go, and by the way, just to remind you, these aren't glued. Nothing here is glued. It's all, you can take it all apart. But where you get these sections at the ends, there's nothing to connect the terrain onto these parts, so you cannot obstruct anything. So don't worry about where you glue things from that perspective. Okay, so I'm finished now. What a staggering amount of terrain there is. There was no other problems with the build or anything like that. Like I said previously, if I went back, I would probably paint on the sprue before assembly, because most of this is modular anyway. But we didn't do that. If you are going to do that, remember to remove things like the sprues from the doorways and all that kind of stuff. However, we have got a truly massive amount of stuff. In terms of kind of the set itself, there's so much terrain, honestly. I'm starting to think that there might even be more terrain here than there was in the, for those of you who know it, the original Warcry starter set, which was huge, a huge amount of terrain in it. And I think there's probably more here. There's more than Octarius, I'm pretty sure of that. Some wall ends. Pillars, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 of those. These kind of short sections, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. we've got 4 of these smaller sections which haven't got the pillars in them. They will obviously just connect to our other pieces of terrain. But yeah, I have to say, the whole kit together is just massive. These kind of longer sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 of those as well. Yeah, it's a proper bounty. There's loads and loads of stuff here. Really cool kit, really impressive. A lot of stuff. I see with a lot of stuff, things like these, I tend to worry a lot that they'll just be rattling around the box, and you know, is it going to get to the table that much? Because there's truly a lot of stuff there, but more importantly, am I going to be bothered to do the setup and all that sort of thing to just to get a game running? Well, I think for the most part, we'll probably keep these assembled in maybe 2 large pieces, and then we can just modify from there. But I'll do that and further review, which will come later. I've got a cunning plan for the painting of this set, so if you want to see that, that will be uploaded at some point next week. I'm very much looking forward to that. I think I've got a really good system to get this done and get around all of the kind of problems of not painting the sections that fit together and all that sort of stuff. So if you want to see that, that'll be along next week. So if you want to buy this set, do so from Element Games and use my affiliate link in the description if you wouldn't mind. If you would use that, I'd really appreciate it, because I'd get a little bit of a kickback there as well. But I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more Kill Team content going forward. I'll be getting the full season for season 2, starting with obviously Into the Dark. So I'll be getting the other expansions as they come out and covering them here. So thank you for watching. Much appreciated. I will see you later.